Welcome to Make America Healthy Again. Join Dr. Charles Antinori and friends as they share solutions, tips, and insights that only doctors know for creating better health. Here's Dr. Antinori.
This is the Make America Healthy Again podcast. I'm Dr. Antinori, and today my guest is Dr. Vincent Grasso. This is the second time he's been on, and he's going to talk to us again about AI, also how it relates to population health, cancer screening, things like that, and a lot of the different projects he's been doing right now. Vince, go ahead, man.
Yeah, thank you. It's a pleasure to be back on your show, and you were a guest, an early guest on our podcast too. So
right.
This is a hot topic. Everyone's very interested in AI and healthcare, and how we can help move the needle and improve the lives of our patients and make people healthier. Right. That's
right.
Kind of your focus. So we're I'm pretty lucky. I get to play with advanced technologies in healthcare, both here in the U.S. and in the EU. My team, the bulk of the team, is actually based in Europe. There are some American surgeons that now live in Europe, and so we get a sense of what's going on both sides of the ocean. And I just got back from Poland the other day. We have a robotics company that we helped get funded. And they're doing some really cool things. And the common denominator, Charlie, of all of our stuff is using AI in its many guises for, whether it's conversational computing or machine learning or agentic and, that the new flavors of AI. They all have a role. And we as practitioners have to figure out, how we can help our patients by integrating some of these advanced technologies.
It's interesting. It just reminded me of something. One of my recent podcasts had one of the fellows from Vineland, actually Melika Hill, talking about the new Da Vinci robot. So this is a robot to compete with that, huh? And he was saying the new Da Vinci is incorporating AI to kind of tell you where they think like for a gallbladder, where they think the common duct is, that sort of thing. But this is another robot to compete against Da Vinci.
Well, they're different. They're the Da Vinci robot is a large enterprise-based, rather pricey instrument, and in the developing world and most of the world, they're not easy to come by the funding for those.
Right.
So a lot of companies are moving into a lighter version of robotic assistance.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, so that you actually now could be at the bedside rather than at a big console across the room.
Yeah.
And you can, control instrumentation with a different interface to a robotic apparatus than what we've been seeing over the past 30 years.
Yeah.
So that's a big change. And, frankly, as a surgeon, and you would know better than I too, is there's something about being with the patient right at the bedside, right? There's still
well, I've said in my book, I think I mentioned in the book, I know I've said it, like as a thoracic surgeon, when you're doing lung surgery, and a lot is being done with the robot. I mean, it's apparently, I'm sure the robot the Da Vinci robot really has it's great for access to a lot of places that are hard to get to, actually open or laparoscopically or thoracoscopically. But the one thing bothered me about it with chest surgery, not so much when you're talking about doing a biopsy or a decortication or something like that, but when we're talking about really doing lobectomies, where you're really working around the pulmonary artery and the pulmonary veins, I have to say, no matter how careful I am, no matter whether I wear my loops, everything, or if I'm doing it thoracoscopically, no matter which way I've done, thoracic surgery, you get into bleeders. I mean, pretty good ones,
Sure.
Around the pump when you're around the pump. And, some days not so much. Some days, and you think you're a great surgeon. Like some days the vessels get dissected out real easily and it's real easy to control them. And everything. Other days, everything's sort of stuck and everything you touch bleeds and it's messy. And I'm just saying, once in a while you get a pretty good bleeder. When you were open, when you had a thoracotomy, you go in, put a clamp on it and, figure out what you had to do. Thoracoscopically, you're prepped and draped, you're scrubbed, the surgeon is scrubbed. So, it's maybe 5-10 minutes to open the chest quickly and get in there. The robot, you're going to have to de-dock, Somebody's got to prep and drape the patient,
Yeah.
and you got to scrub. I mean, I don't see how you can do that in less than 15 or 20 minutes.
No,
And you
no,
can really lose a lot of blood in 15 or 20 minutes.
sure. No, it's an interesting, it's an interesting time,
Yeah,
picking the right equipment. And, you brought up a computer vision application where, the computer vision algorithm can help you identify, maybe a duct anomaly or
yeah,
anatomical variants that you may not be familiar with. So the computer vision stuff is very cool. The physical robotic control mechanisms are very interesting. So, AI really does play a role in this whole ecosystem. The
yeah.
challenge is, what's the cost to integrate it and use
Right,
it and train everyone? So
right.
it's all still in its infancy, but it's moving fast.
I think your other point of trying to get at something cheap, because I think the Da Vinci's in the ballpark of $2 million now, and even if you do thousands of cases with it, that's still adding hundreds of dollars to
Yeah.
every case, and the armatures that have to be replaced periodically. I've never was able to get a straight answer to that. How many cases you can do
Yeah.
before you replace the connecting rods, basically. And they're like, no, I did get an answer that they cost about 10 grand. So that's considerably adding to the procedures too. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's, consumables and upgrades and maintenance and all sorts of costs that
Yeah.
get bundled in. But, so that's it's, that space, that surgical robotic space is on fire
Yeah.
and
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
it's expanding. And then there's pure software stuff. I'm involved in both sides. I'm a system architect and software architect, so I like playing on the software side a little more because you can make changes a lot faster when you play with hardware and you require some regulatory updates. It takes time. So
Yeah.
you can move fast with software, and we're working on a very interesting population health project for enhancing cancer screening and the success of overall cancer screening programs and projects.
Yeah.
You know, sadly, I trained in the inner cities. You were
We
trained,
all do. I
you know,
mean, that's where the big hospitals are. That's what. Yeah.
so I'm not even sure if there's really been that much of an improvement in detecting early stage cancers in impoverished areas where people
Right.
come they come to the ER with a stage 3 lesion.
Yeah.
And that's bad for a lot of reasons, especially for them.
Yeah, we,
And
we talk about it on our tumor board all the time. And really just we do tumor board once a month. I would say 75% of people get discovered at stage 3 or stage 4. And we're really, I mean, stage 1, stage 2 surgery has a good chance of curing you,
yeah,
and with chemo and everything added onto it, even a better chance of curing you. But like I say, stage 3 and stage 4, stage 3, like I say, you suffer,
yeah, it's
and then you die, and then stage 4, it's quicker. But yeah,
yeah. So there's ways that we can, at least from a population health perspective, and we were talking a little bit before the call. If you've got a couple 100,000 patients that are at risk for breast cancer, like 400,000 women that need to be screened in a geography, and it's a weird moving target because cancer risk is a function of many things.
right,
It's not just your age or there's prior biopsies and family history. So you can be getting information over time that moves your risk profile around. And so if you have hundreds of thousands of people that you have to get into the system to do a mammogram or a
yeah,
follow-up ultrasound, it's not easy. So how
yeah,
do you risk stratify 400,000 people, number one? And then
yeah,
if you do that successfully, how do you contact them all? How do the case managers in a hospital system reach out to 400,000 people? They send one email to everyone.
yeah,
So communications is a very complex space. Precision communications even harder. So these compounding factors, a moving target on risk in a population, and the complexities of reaching out to them and communicating with them in real time and following up is a logistical nightmare.
yeah,
So, an AI apparatus that helps you manage that data set, so to speak, and reach out to the most risk people more frequently because that's who really you need to contact first.
Right.
And I ask people it's not a wise guy question, Charlie. It's a kind of interesting question. Is if you have 100,000 women that are at risk for cancer, breast cancer, and there's one in the 100,000 who has the largest delta between getting a mammogram. So make believe that woman's mammogram was 5 years ago,
Yeah. Yeah.
and she's the outlier.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing you say. And you say, well, out of the 100,000 people, who would you call first to schedule a mammogram? And it's a kind of trick leading thing. And some people say, well, I'd call that one because she's 5 years late.
Yeah.
But the answer is you call the person that has the highest risk. And
Yeah.
that
Right.
may not have the highest risk.
Right. Right.
And we kind of get into this routine of, oh, you missed your mammogram, it's a month late, you got to get it. Well,
Yeah.
the resources of the hospital really should be calling the highest risk patients more frequently first,
Right.
because that's really who you have to screen first, not from a calendar perspective.
Right.
And it's hard. It's hard to do all those analytics and manage
Yeah.
all that stuff. So there's some good things for, making the country healthier.
Yeah.
Cancer screening is certainly one of them, right?
Yeah. Like I say, and again, getting back to chest surgery, I don't think that we've seen the big dividend from the screening programs. I've heard now they're talking about just screening everybody. The CAT scan. Doing like a low level CAT scan, not a refined CAT scan, but the low level screening CAT scan was, you had to be like between 50 and 75 or 55 and 75, something like that, and have had a 30-pack year smoking history or something like that. I think they're getting rid of all that. But I still, again, is that really going to be the big argument against it was not terribly cost effective. If you could figure out a way to really figure cost effectively screen, and get the most bang for the buck. Yeah. Yeah.
It's I was just in Poland. I'm finishing my PhD, Charlie, too, actually.
Oh, really? Wow. Cool.
I'm finishing it with a friend of mine who's a surgeon in France. And we were at the university we were involved with. It was a 75th anniversary, and they had a young lady that was she graduated there. She's an MD PhD at the Karolinska Institute in Sweden, and she's a breast radiologist.
Uh-huh.
And she did a big study that's published in Nature on, the rationale for using algorithms to help read mammograms.
Yeah. Yeah.
The AI is really good. I mean, you can train it on hundreds of thousands of reads.
Yeah.
And so that space, it's really being very helpful on the radiology side of the equation, which is helpful here too, right?
Yeah, I'm aware of that, and I really could see where that could work. Having AI read mammograms and other screening tests, looking for, you could teach them. Seems to me you could teach it to look for nodules and things like that.
So good.
And we're humans. I mean, I'm sure AI would probably miss things too. But like you have a human doing, a human and an AI person looking at it, you're going to catch more.
Yeah, I mean the machine, they were talking and they said, a human, you can have a bad day. You can go out the night before and get gastroenteritis and be sick all night. You had to go to work the next day. You're dehydrated. You're reading films all day. We're just humans, and the machine doesn't have any of those.
Right.
None of that variability exists.
Right.
And they get better, and they just get smarter. It learns, and it keeps learning. What's weird is with humans, if you have a radiologist that worked, say, 40 years in a healthcare system, superbly trained guy, when he or she retires, all that knowledge walks out the door.
That's true too. Yeah. Yeah.
The machine just keeps incrementally learning. There is no loss.
Yeah. That's a good point.
And it's really
Boy, I tell you, you're making me scared. It's like all these science fiction movies are coming true.
Well,
we're gonna be replaced, But that is true. I'm feeling weird, because now I'm finally, I can't operate. I have friends call me up and have all kinds of problems and stuff like that. And in the past, I always used to be able to say, like, yeah, well, come on, if they weren't too far away physically, I think I'm going to mention you've got a friend of mine from high school, from Regis. He's got a million things going on. And I try to guide them, but it'd be a lot easier if I was actually doing it, but I can't anymore. And that's what I'm saying. All my knowledge is sort of worthless. I mean, the only thing I do now is advise friends and family on how, and I talk to people I talk to my mom's, my mom's a cardiologist, told her to stop driving, which she's 97.
Yeah, God bless your mom. I mean, you are, I guess you're one of the few people left, around that actually has pearls of wisdom from DeBakey himself, right?
You're right. Yeah. Yeah.
People can say that.
Yeah.
It's in your mind,
Yeah.
and you own that. But
Yeah.
these are the challenges of very talented and experienced people that leave the workforce, and it walks out the door. Their mind walks out
Yeah.
the door.
Yeah.
It's a challenge.
Mm. Mm. Yeah. I spoke to my nephew. I don't think you would know him, Anthony, Tony's oldest son.
No, I don't know him.
Yeah, he got into IT. He was born in 81,
Okay.
and he got into IT like in his teens,
Yeah.
basically, and went straight from high school into IT,
Nice.
college, and worked for Bayonne Hospital first.
Okay.
That was started. He must have worked for Bayonne Hospital like around 2000 or 2005 or something like that, and. Yeah, he worked for the one that closed in New York, St. Luke's or something. I forget which one.
Yeah.
Was that the one St.
St.
Luke's?
Clair's? Maybe St. Clair's
Maybe
closed.
St. I was one. It was downtown. One of the, it was
St. Vincent. St.
St.
Vincent.
Vincent. It was St. Vincent. It
What a
was
mess.
funny about talking about that too, because before they closed, they were talking about building a new hospital, and then all of a sudden they closed. And he landed on his feet. He's very high up in the NYU
Oh,
IT now. And he's telling me, we were talking about some amazing things with the AI, like that putting microphones in the room. You know about this. I mean, we may have talked about it before, but like putting the microphones in the room and having the AI just listen and then do a summary like it will do of this little talk we're having.
yeah.
And he said that that they're integrating that with Epic, which is becoming the dominant
Yeah.
computer system. What do you think of Epic? You think is it?
I mean, they're big monolithic platforms, and it's hard once they're in your system. It's very difficult to work around them, right?
Yeah,
It's you invest $1 billion in putting in Epic into a monster healthcare system, it's going to be there,
yeah,
and you've got to play with them. They don't really like having entrepreneurial folks running around trying to connect to their system of record. It's just that's part of the challenge is there's not too many players left
yeah.
at that scale. A couple EMR companies, Oracle bought Cerner. There's all scripts. There's not many platforms anymore.
Oracle bought Cerner, because we, as you probably know, Rowan or Inspira
Yeah.
was using Cerner. We just started February, and a day that's seared in your memory. February 18th, 2018 is when we started on Cerner. And had to learn that. And now, I think next year it's 2020, sometime in 2026, they're going to Epic, and I know they must have spent a fortune on Cerner.
Yeah, I mean, there's an Atlantic City. The Atlantic City healthcare system is still on Cerner. They're an Oracle shop.
Yeah.
They're a smaller system, but they're big platforms. I mean, Oracle is an astoundingly interesting company technically.
Yeah.
They are, it's a completely different company than an Epic, but they're still big companies. They're hard to play with. They're hard to,
Yeah.
They don't support in many instances innovation and entrepreneurialism.
Well, that's what I read that book. I might have mentioned it to you before, The Digital Doctor by this guy, Wachter. I think it's Richard Wachter, Wachter. And he was talking about that in his book about it's a whole history of electronic health records, really kind of a little bit of a history of medicine, and specifically looking at electronic health records. And he claims, and I've read other places, that the bigger players, Cerner and Epic, lobbied very hard the Obama administration to push through the High-Tech Act, because they knew in 2014, 2015 that they were pretty much the only big ones Only companies big enough to like really take care of the whole country, and that's what's happened. I mean, the two of them basically got probably. I mean, Epic must be more than 50% by now, and CERN is probably 20 or 30%, and everybody else is the rest. Yeah,
the big, even they're the only player in town really for a big
yeah.
enterprise.
And it killed. And like they were saying, the book he talked about the book, like some of these smaller Athena and some of these other ones, these smaller platforms look promising, but they're not going to go anywhere. They weren't big enough to hook up with the systems. And then the other argument you have is the systems interfacing with each other. If everybody's on Epic, it's much easier for somebody in
Sure.
in South Jersey to get records from a hospital in North Jersey or maybe even California. I don't know, but if everybody's on different platforms, the interfaces become very, very difficult, and nobody wants to pay for them. Nobody wants to pay for the difficulty of obtaining data from somebody else's healthcare system, whereas it is super healthy, super useful. I'm sure a patient comes in, and if he's been in some other hospital, he's had a million things done. If you can access that, you don't have to repeat all that stuff.
Sure. I mean, that was the big promise,
Yeah, right,
and it's still so fragmented.
right.
But and now AI kind of complicates things in some ways because what people don't really understand is if you have a business like an operating company, a healthcare system that's not run efficiently from a workflow perspective, and then you want to throw an AI to get all these efficiencies, you kind of you throw something into the mix, and until you fix process, you really can't take advantage of an advanced system.
Yeah,
So at the end of the day, good business practices are still required,
right.
and you can really benefit from AI. But if your workflow is a mess, then
Yeah,
it's just more. It gets messier.
yeah,
So we're all proponents of having everybody step back and really understand their workflow and process, and then let's see how AI can help you once you really document how the hell you do things,
yeah,
because you'd be surprised that documentation is not readily available.
yeah, yeah. It is, but it's an interesting time. I have to say, I'm a little bit glad that I'm kind of retiring. I mean, I'm gonna miss it in a way, but it's kind of a interesting time, a scary time in a way. It's going to be a lot of changes are going, like radiologists. I mean, you hear about these people we talk about with AI reading X-rays. Is it actually going to be able to replace a radiologist at some point in time? It might be. I mean, there's all sorts of businesses that are afraid of that. The financial services people apparently are like really concerned about that AI
Sure.
just replacing them,
Yeah, I
or
mean,
replacing a lot of them.
the radiologists, they're like everything else. I mean, uh, the radiologists that are evolving and keeping up on things because they like technology and they're part of the expansion. They're in a good position.
Yeah,
If you're an interventionalist, you're in a good position, right?
yeah, right. That's
If
good. Yeah, good point. Interventionalists. Yeah,
so
yeah,
if you're just reading chest X-rays, that's not a place to be because the machine is so good at it.
right, right.
But somebody still has to sign the document. So until they allow physicians not, if you don't have to sign the report,
Yeah,
then you're out the window. But until as long as humans still have to sign that report, they're involved. But that's even up for grabs.
yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, as I say, it's going to be a really interesting time in the next 5, 10, 15 years, I think.
Well, yeah, if you want to work with us, I mean, what I like about all the projects we're doing is, a lot of the folks that are working with us, the students, the grad students, they're like under 30.
yeah,
So you get to hang around with a bunch of people between 18 and 30
yeah,
who are happy that you're around.
yeah.
That's not too common
No,
in the younger generation of having younger kids like that, happy that somebody
yeah.
that's older is hanging around. They're
And that's
learning.
also where you're supposed to all your innovation.
Yeah,
Einstein never did anything after 35.
Yeah,
All
so
all the brilliant inventions. But same thing, Bill Gates, he was, I think he had done 90% of his work by that time. John D. Rockefeller was a multimillionaire by the time he was that age, and the rest of the money just kept rolling in.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's smart kids they need, but
They need guidance. They don't have
yeah,
experience,
the healthcare domain is you can't know it at 18. You can be a
Yeah, right,
genius. You just don't like there's things that you need to learn.
right.
It's nice having a blended team. We've got some
Yeah,
genius programmers. They're like 21, but they're not their social skills are maybe not up to what you would
uh,
need to go to a
uh,
meeting because
yeah,
they're learning how to speak in public.
yeah,
Kids that are used to using their phones and whatnot, they didn't study, they didn't study rhetoric and grammar and oratory like we did in high school, right? So
right.
they don't have those kind of soft skills.
Mm,
And that's actually a big opportunity for kids is the liberal arts are now coming back in vogue because it helps
right.
philosophy and stuff. It helps you think and structure things. So it's swung around full circle. It's interesting.
It really is. Well, I'll tell you, if we talked before, I'm in Elmer Wednesday and Friday mornings. That'd be the easiest time for me to stop by. Would be Wednesday or Friday afternoon sometime, and just see you physically and
Yeah,
check
I have 3 demos to show you. I think you'll find they'll excite you, and maybe you'll join up with us and fly around and
Like I said, I have some time on my hands, so I'd be glad. That might be an option. Vince.
Oh, it's fun.
Okay. Well, thanks a lot.
Hey, my pleasure, and I'm glad you're doing this podcast. It's great for everyone to see how we can help people stay healthier. You've been on target for a long time with this.
We'll see you soon.
Okay.